All right, all right, all right. We'd like to welcome you to today's show. Let's bring in the man with the plan, Mr. Vin McCormick. How are you, sir?
Top of the morning to you. Top of the morning to you, sir. Mr. Bubba, always a pleasure to be with you, man, and with our viewers, those who are tuning in to our fourth show. Yes, I'm counting them, Donnie. Our fourth show.
No,
State of
fifth.
Health. Huh?
Fifth. Fifth.
I'm sorry. Well, you know what? I went to Rock Glen. What you expect? But
no, you went to Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, and I hope you're proud of it because we're about to bring. We're about to bring a very proud Dunbar Poet on here, so I hope you got some school pride, my brother.
I got a whole lot of school pride. But yeah, so congratulations on our fifth show. I'm excited every show, every broadcast, and I've been telling people how to get onto the show because I've been asked, and I'm just very, very happy with what we're doing. And thank you, even before Mr. David gets on, thank you for our guest today.
Man, he's more than a guest, man. Let me just get to the get down. He is the one and only former delegate, Ted Hutt.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I always wanted to do that, man. Delegate Clarence Tiger Davis, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm okay. I'm walking around. Hey,
look, I see you got your Morgan colors on.
Absolutely. Getting ready to knock down 82.
82 years
and I'm still walking. A little pain every now and then, but I'm still walking, man.
Listen, man, I brought you on for a number of reasons. Vin was with the 82nd.
82nd Airborne, huh?
All the way, sir. All the way.
All right.
And one of the things we talk about on this show is mental health. That's the crux of it. And
well, if he was with 82nd, I can understand him thinking about mental health.
Okay. All right. You're a guest today. I'm going to leave that alone, Mr. Davis. You're a guest today.
Delegate, he told a story about a cat. They were going through their monthly jump. And he's down on the ground. He's rolling up his parachute. And he notices this guy is exceeding the count. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. He's supposed to pull the string. And at that point, he's supposed to pull it back up. And then, Delegate, he said the guy hit the ground and bounced up 10 feet.
Uh-huh. And did he come back down and start running? If he did, then he was real 82nd. Hey, look, let me tell you something, man. You know, my uncle, he was first in the triple nickel, right? And then he ended up in the 82nd. He got bounced out because after that experience in Korea, he was suffering from PTSD. And hey, man, he was going to get that drink every time. He didn't even drink or smoke when he went in. But man, he was looking for that drink because he had to kind of like soothe them thoughts and them nerves and all that kind of stuff. And he ended up, they charged him with malingering and being black. That's what they do. And then he ended up getting kicked out of the service after about a little over 10 years in the military, man. You know, from the 82nd. And when he died, man, he was still angry at that young lieutenant who kicked him out. But I know that 82nd. And I know they got some crazy white boys in there too, because see, them white boys were going there and plan how they was going to come back and join these militias and cause havoc back here. Now, one of my last big confrontations with them, I think it was about 2002, maybe 2002. What happened? A young lad, Ron Hutchins, his daddy, was a Korean War vet and Vietnam vet, right? We found Ron eating out of trash cans and stuff like this, man. We got him, cleaned him up, put him into a GED program. He got his GED. And then he went on from there to get a bachelor's, well, get an AA degree from Community College of Baltimore, and then a bachelor's from Morgan, then went down to Louisville, and he got him a master's degree in social work. He ended up having a heart attack leading the anti-drug march, I think sometime around, I guess it must have been about 1999 or what have you. But at any rate, I became like a surrogate father to his children. And one of his sons, Michael Hutchins, was in the 82nd Airborne. And they was about to deploy, during the terrorism thing. This brother was taking nitroglycerin and all that other stuff for all kinds of maladies that he had developed. And he had 19 years and some months left. In fact, he was even in the processing stage to get his retirement. But they pulled it back and gonna send him into a combat zone. I had to get into that case because, hey, man, this is like murder, what you're getting ready to do here. To send a man who's taking nitroglycerin, all these heart problems and stuff, into a combat zone just before he's ready to get out the service, even if he didn't have a heart condition and he was just processing out, and you send him, that might cause him to have the problem. But that was the 82nd Airborne. I had to go to the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, and I used Kwesi and all of the other legislators like Ben Cardin and all, because at that time, I was in the state legislature. And so I used every means I had to keep him from deploying, because it would have been a death penalty. And the kind of stuff he told me, like, hey, them captains and majors had bags full of money. And I'm not, when I say bags full of money, I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, $1 million that they paying off warlords over there and stuff like that, in the poppy fields and all, man. So, what we talked about and what they were doing over there, he didn't want no parts of it. And so we managed to get him out, but they was nasty in how they sent him out. All right, get your shit, get out, that kind of thing, right? So
in other words, he was exposing while we were really in Afghanistan.
Well, he was telling this story about what was really happening, yes. But the back
we
to
over
the
there
real
for that heroin that East Baltimore and West Baltimore known for selling.
Yeah, because look, Afghanistan had more heroin than anybody else. They had more heroin than the Golden Triangle, in Southeast Asia, man. And so, but his thing was, he was finished. He was processing out. He had done his due for nearly 20 years. Okay. And so because of that, I think he's still living down there in North Carolina somewhere. His name Michael Hutchins, man. You may have run across him because you all about the same age. I guess Michael's about the age of my youngest kid, somewhere around 50. Hey, I guess my youngest kid is about 55. So
look, you're making me sad. I want to shift gears for a second. I want you, Vin, have you ever heard of James Fortin?
No, I have not heard of James Fortin. You get ready to give me another history lesson, and I appreciate that.
Well, I'm gonna let the professor do it, but I wrote about James Fortin in my second book, and I want you to listen because first, he was a soldier. More than that, he was a patriot. That's correct. He did not believe in us going back to Africa. He believed in us making it right here. But his son was for that going to Africa. And it was so interesting how they both were adamant about their points. But I'm going to let Delegate.
And they both was really right. There was no wrong in that. But anyway, James Fortin was captured at the age of 15, he was in a POW camp during the Revolutionary War. And the major who ran the POW camp saw he wasn't nothing but a kid, and he was shooting marbles with his little teenage boy. And so he saw the intelligence in this lad, and so he said, hey, look, I'm sending my son to England to go to school. I want you to go to school with him. And he said, no, I'm a patriot, and I will remain with my comrades in this POW camp.
Young black man, then.
Eventually what happened now is at the end of the Revolutionary War, he became an apprentice sail maker. He was so ingenious that he came up with all different kinds of methods to improve the sail making industry.
You got that, Ben? He made sails for sail ships.
Yeah. So
okay, got it.
Yeah. So when his boss got a little old, he bought the company from his boss.
Now this is while slavery is going on.
Then he became one of the wealthiest men in Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia around 2014 finally decided to recognize him, right? But he became one of the wealthiest men in Philadelphia, which meant that at that time, Philadelphia was the source of wealth in this country. It was far ahead of New York. And so what happened is he continued to build the company, but he financed the Underground Railroad. He financed the building of all public and municipal buildings in Philadelphia. One of the greatest philanthropists ever in the history of Philadelphia, but he had been hidden in history. Now, once he found out that his son, who is part of what we call, well, let me put it to you like this. Between 1820 and 1850, there was a Black nationalist movement within the United States. One of my professors, Professor Howard Bell, Dr. Howard Bell at Morgan, wrote his doctoral thesis on that. Now, I know it's hard to envision a Black nationalist movement when all we ever talk about is slavery, right? But they had all of these, some people will call it the convention movement, where they would have conventions in Rochester, Saratoga, and all of these different places where all the Blacks would come together and they would plot out their course or what have you for liberating their people and all. One of the methods of liberating people was a Back to Africa movement. And what happened is James Fortin Sr. was opposed to the Back to Africa movement. And because what he told his son is this: look, if we go back to Africa, who will be here to take care of our brethren who remain in bondage? The son said,
it should be noted that both the U.S. and Britain both had a Back to Africa program.
All right. Now, his son then says, look, Pops, if we go back to Africa, we can produce cotton and other products at a much cheaper price because we're closer to Europe and we can undersell the cotton industry, because it's cotton that keeps slavery going. And so both of them made sense, okay? But the bottom line is that struggle continued, or at least the debate continued throughout the up to let's say the Civil War. But that was a father-son. And remember now, they married well too. And some of them married, there was a lot of half-whites all around the place, but they married well. And because there's another family called the Purvis family, Robert Purvis. You got to look him up sometime too, Robert Purvis. Because when we look back at that time, we talk about slavery so much that we will forget that we had lawyers back then. We had top flight educators back then, well-educated Black people back during the 1820s and 1830s, but we never focus on them because we always want to play that victim thing with the slavery issue, okay? But we had extraordinary people who were second to none in this country. As I tell the story, I say, look, wait a minute, hold it. brothers and sisters, black people built America. You know, all you have to do is look at who defended this country all the time. And even though they could not benefit from the fruits of their labor or combat experiences or what have you, we defended this country. We were the leaders in technology. I don't care whether in STEM, I don't care whether you're talking about from Benjamin Banneker all the way up to George Washington Carver, and in between with those blacks who was with Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell and all of that, all the inventions and the shoemaking industries and the factories and the railroad. Hey, look, man, black people built STEM or science and technology in this country, right? But we never focus on that because we always want to be victims. Okay. Then if you're talking about culture, even country western music came from us. The whole culture of this country came from us.
So look, I got a question for you, Delegate.
Let me hit this one last piece,
okay,
and then I'm gonna be done with that. Look, if you're talking about democracy, how did we get this democracy? We got the democracy because black people insisted that it be a democracy and that everybody have equal rights and equal opportunity and the right to vote. That's how we become a democracy. It's black people all the way. We built this thing, but because we always want to be victims or we're programmed to be victims, we never see our true greatness. There's nothing greater than us.
This is what I want to pose to you, Delegate. We just had an election. This show is all about our mental well-being. If I think better, I do better. Mm-hmm. What does a David Trone go through right now, having spent $70 million and lost?
Well, I know he's terribly disappointed, but it's his own fault. Okay, because of the people he engaged to do the job, and because
he had some off brands. You mean?
Yeah, and because he relied and put a lot of millions of dollars in the people who really did not mean him well. Okay.
He paid the wrong people.
Yeah, that was nothing wrong with David Trone now, because look, everybody who know anything about him know he has always done more for black people than most black people do. Okay. Now that's the honest God truth. But like I told his staff when they called me, I said, hey, wait a minute now. I like David Trone, but there's no way in the world I'm going to be out here campaigning for a white boy, I don't care how good he is, against one of my sisters. You know, and that was my position. I say, but here's what I will do. I will stay out of it and leave a level playing field there, you know, because, hey, you know, I don't mind you telling your story to my folks, whether they be veterans or whatever. You can tell your story, and I won't get into it, and we'll let the chips fall where they may, because I don't believe you're supposed to win simply because you're a black female and because we want to have a black female break the ice on being the United States Senator. That ain't what I'm about. Hey, look, man, we are up against the wall in this country. This is like 1876 all over with that Rutherford B. Hayes thing. And then in 1883, they struck down all the civil rights bills that actually Republicans had put in place to try to equalize things for black people. But in 1883, the Supreme Court struck down everything. We are in the same situation we were in then. And then by 1896, you're going to get Plessy versus Ferguson, right? And so the thing is, our people don't understand history, so they don't understand what is taking place right now. But
break it down. What is happening?
What's taking place right now is Trump, and Trumpism is one of the most dangerous phenomenon to ever hit this country. I mean, our whole survival depends upon the maintenance of democracy. Once democracy goes, we dead in the water, because any dictator can get up there and he says he's going to be a dictator and call for the incarceration of black people. You see what would have happened to them kids up there in New York who were innocent?
Central Park 5?
Yeah. I mean, this is Trump. He's shooting from the hip, man. Using all that racism. See, the bottom line is Trump, who refused to go into the military and use fraudulent means to stay out. He had what bone spurs or something, huh? Bone spur? Come on, man. And that's how he avoided military service. Then he turned around and say all of us are suckers because we did serve. Now, how can any veteran anywhere in this country or anyone who considers themselves a patriot get anywhere near supporting him? They should spit at him every time he come their way. But what we see is they embrace him because this is all about him being a white boy and talking to white folks.
Let me get Vin here. Vin, you are sitting there and you had no idea of the barrage of information that the delegate will be bringing to you today. So I'm just going to pass the ball to you and say, come on in. This is your house.
Well, you know what I'm doing? I'm appreciating a few things that relates to the brother delegate Clarence, Mr. Clarence Davis. I've heard the name many times, never had the opportunity to meet him, but I'm just elated on the information that he's is able to communicate to me and to the audience who are logged in and tapped in and viewing. And I appreciate what you're bringing. And you're absolutely right on quite a few things. I think, I don't like saying that, I believe that we suffer, and here in America, blacks in America, we suffer from not knowing our history, which gives us a very, very bad disadvantage just right away, right? Not knowing our history. And you're absolutely right. Much of what's going on today has just been an undercurrent, just waiting to have a means and a reason to rise. So what I've been sharing with folks, especially in the barbershop, where black men get together, is Trump has brought out in a lot of Caucasians what they have been feeling for decades, right? They just never they needed a reason and a leader to allow them to be much freer in their thinking. So it goes back to when I remember when Barack Obama was president, and he used to say, and this may cause some controversy in the folks who are viewing. He used to say, "It's one America," and I used to think to myself, "Bro, no, it's not." You know what I mean? But he had to say that, right? He's the president. He has to say that. But unfortunately, with all the laws that have been put on the books, and all the things have happened, all the blood that has shed, we are a very divided country, even in 2024. And Trump has allowed that to play itself out. And I agree with everything you said, Delegate. We are one decision away from total anarchy in this country. And a good example of that is January 6th. The world sat back and watched that thing play out. It was Americans that thought it was a TV show. I remember talking to this lady, educated lady. She said, "Ms. Cormick, I was watching that thing, and it took me a few minutes to realize that was really happening in D.C. I thought it was a TV show because Americans never expected that to happen. But it's always been we've always been one decision away, one event away from total anarchy. And I've been watching the trials, Trump on trial, and not, but they've been, and even the folk, especially the black folk, and I know of a couple of them, the Capitol Police who were on duty that day. And it's just amazing how the Republican senators, right, are trying to disparage those guys and women, men and women who were on duty that day, who were really giving their lives. Some of them gave their lives, right, to protect democracy. And you got Republicans who are trying to make mockery of it and make them seem like they are the back. It's sickening, man. And you're absolutely right, Delegate. If we lose democracy, black folk can just hang it up.
You got that right. Now, look, but one of the problems...
Not just black people. You got a lot of white people out there with mixed grandchildren and children.
Yeah, but one of the problems we face is this, and I think it's kind of inherent whenever we talk about not knowing our history. See, we keep acting like it's white folks or the system's responsibility to teach us our history. No, it ain't. It ain't. That's our responsibility. The Jews don't ask nobody to tell them their history. That's our responsibility. We keep asking or seeking validation.
Yes.
We seek validation from folks who are enemies, okay? And let's not make no bones about it. If we in America, we black folks, everybody else is our enemy here in America. Everybody. you know, to include some of our leadership who out here playing the game of a surrogate for the master. Okay, and we've got to understand that we do have those surrogates out here. Okay, but once we understand how the system works, we need to know our own history. We need to know our own greatness. Okay, you know, just like I made the little vignette there about how, you know, or why I say we built America. We did. There ain't never been a doubt in my mind about our greatness. I mean, let's just go back to World War II. Look at the greatness of how my fathers. Now, you know, I'm probably old enough to be your father, Brother McCormick. Yes, sir. But look at my fathers. Look at what I have to look at. I got Ben Hooks. I got Mayor Harold Washington. I got David Dinkins, one of the first Black Marines, right? I've got Medgar Evers. I've got all those blacks who came home and headed the NAACP who was murdered down south that nobody even know about. You know, I've got the family who was in Columbia, Tennessee when the riots broke out in 1946 because this World War II veteran would not allow this white man to push his mama around. And he knocked the shit out that white man. They even went through the goddamn plate glass window, and you know, a whole riot evolved out of that. So the thing is that I look at my father's generation, even people like Sandy McIntyre, Professor McIntyre at Morgan, Dr. McIntyre, who has, you know, produced more Fulbright scholars than anybody else. Now he's dead and gone now, but I look at the greatness of that generation. And I look at how people, and look, I understand what Snowden and them are talking about with regards to renaming the Francis Scott Key Bridge. They are dead wrong, okay?
Whoa. What you talking about?
Wrong.
What you talking about?
They need to leave that alone. What's supposed to be Param Mitchell's name supposed to be on is that daggone medical center downtown, because Param Mitchell was wounded in Italy, and that VA medical center downtown was just not have a name that should be named after him. Going after all these people who held slaves and trying to wipe them out, that's the wrong way to go.
I'm unclear. You saying the Key Bridge should be renamed?
He said it shouldn't be.
I'm saying they need to leave it alone, period. And all of the stuff about
because Snowden came on here.
All right, look. Let's hang Thomas Jefferson then. Let's hang George Washington. Everybody had slaves. Let's hang some of them black people that had slaves. Just because somebody had slaves does not define who they are for this particular nation. It was what was happening at that time. So if that's all we got to cling to,
well, we don't have to rename it after a slave owner. I mean, I
was a slave owner. So what? So what? Half these people don't have no idea what slavery is. Look, I was raised by former slaves. Everybody in Georgia who was 80 years old or above when I was a kid had been born slaves. You see, so
name the bridge after John Brown.
I know what slavery is.
Well,
I know that whole culture. You understand?
Okay, well, we look over the jail and see what slavery is. Now why won't let's name the bridge after John Brown?
No. Leave the damn bridge alone. Let's get to something that's substantive. You understand? Like the development of our children.
Hold up, delegate, man. Now, I ain't never had to fight with you, but I ain't scared of you.
I'm ready for this one.
All right.
That boy done it. All right, come on, man. Bring it. We need to have this discussion. No, that's a good discussion, man.
I agree.
And we need to have had this discussion a long time ago, okay? Because people are taking the focus away from what our real needs are and focusing on some fictitious bullshit, man. Look, here our children are coming out of school, can't read, can't write, and all this other kind of stuff. They are living in homes. Now, check this out, ma'am, because we veterans put together an after-school program at Bernard Harris Senior Elementary School. What we found is that half them kids was living with an aunt or grandparent or something like this, because their parents were either on drugs or in jail and all that kind of crap. Now, that's what we need to be focused on instead of naming some goddamn bridge. You understand?
Well,
we need to be focused on developing our children, because without our children, we have no future. That ain't got nothing to do with the mission of what our adults should be doing right now, because we are in a survival, desperate survival situation where our children will destroy our community, because we are producing the mass executioners of our society. And we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about renaming some goddamn bridge. And meanwhile, our community is being destroyed internally, man. This is crazy.
So let me get a word in. Okay. They renamed BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. They renamed BWI, so now it's BWI Thurgood Marshall. Now I told your former colleague, who's got his wings now, Delegate Emmett Burns, the Right Reverend. I said, Delegate, I don't care if you name the airport KKK International, let black businesses get some of that $1.8 billion in expansion money.
Now you was right on board.
Your colleague, your age group said, no, we're going to get the name. We need the symbolic change. And I said what you said. The hell with that. Let me get the damn money.
Yeah. Look, we couldn't even get our fireman who had, spent 4 or 5 years in the Air Force, in the fire department and the Air Force, right? Come home and can't even get jobs in the fire department down there at the airport. Now, that's what we need to be talking about. We got guys who was aircraft mechanics who couldn't get jobs down there. We got businessmen who could operate business, caterers, culinary, who could have run businesses there. Now, you were absolutely correct. But what we want is something cosmetic that looks good.
Well, I do. You do agree that Francis Scott Key was a racist, and he said,
I don't give a shit whether he was a racist.
He also wrote the national anthem, and so I got to stand with getting rid of him. He got to go.
Well, look, no. That's bullshit, man. That ain't got nothing to do. I understand where you at, and yeah, but then let's wipe out them all. Let's wipe out George Washington, who screwed all our women. Let's wipe out Thomas Jefferson.
He's a liar. Both of them was liars, because they said they love black women, and they said they were racist. So you can't be a racist and you love black women. They got to make.
I don't give a shit. They all racist. So am I. But goddamn, now look, here's the thing. You goddamn right I am.
How are you a racist? They said in order to be a racist, you have to have the means to persecute somebody and to influence and push your will.
Listen at me now.
I didn't see you enslave nobody.
Let me. That has nothing to do with anything that's relevant for us today. That happened. So what? It happened. Like I was about to tell you, the people that raised me early on, like my great grandma, Aunt Flora. Now, Flora Winfrey. All of her sons were independent because she understood that they could never rely on white folks. My grandfather leased his land. Unlike my mother's side of the family, they were sharecroppers. Okay, but see, when you understand that culture that existed down there, and you understand what slavery really was, look, it's not something to
I'm working for free. That's what it was. I'm working for free and I get no benefits.
You still working
on a horse with a whip talking smack to me and knocking my girl down at night. We got a problem.
And listen, and while you focus on that BS, our children are out here killing us, wiping out our whole culture and everything. I'm saying that our focus is in the wrong place.
Yeah, because we let somebody come in and say, time out, time out, time out.
We need to leave that BS alone where we get
your
on
parents tell you time out.
TV cowboys and think we doing something to hurt white folks while our children are sitting up here killing everything they can find out here in our community. That is where we supposed to be. Now, I've been fighting this battle, and I can show you the studies because let me run to you how our leadership is. We didn't lose my brother, did we?
We might have scared him off. He'll be all right, though. He'll come back.
All right, but look. We have known, and I can show you the report I did, 85, 86. I raised the issue of what was happening to our children because the only reason I got back into electoral politics because I couldn't stand it, okay? But in 1979, I saw how politics was impacting our people, okay? Hey, Andy, all right, what I did, we formed what was called the Coalition on the School Budget. We asked the state for monies because right now, teachers with a master's degree in Baltimore County made $10,000 a year more than a teacher in Baltimore City. So all of our better teachers were moving to the county, and the county needed to increase its Black teachers. So all of our good teachers were leaving. The other good teachers were being elevated to positions of regional superintendent and other administrative positions. So what was left in the classroom were the mediocre students who came out of our colleges because the big corporations at that time was wiping the cream of the crop right off the top. When I came through school, the cream of the crop had nowhere to go but to the public school system, right? So I had the best teachers in the world. See, we've got to look at what has really happened to us in this country and try to understand how we went wrong. There was a time when children were the one focus. This is why people like Coach Edgar Lee Bell, you remember him, right? Used to coach all the young kids in East Baltimore, right? Coach Edgar Lee Bell. Hey, look, man, he took his own money. Mac Lewis. The focus of our father's generation was all about the development of kids. Okay, and when I say development,
half the Black men locked up or strung out. There's been an attack on our community since then.
No. There has been a failure on our community. We keep wanting to blame everything on white folks. No. When our society,
some of it's white folks' fault and some of it's our fault, but the bottom line is
it's all our fault.
Oh no!
It's all our fault. Listen,
it's my fault.
Take care of their own. We need to start thinking about our own and taking care of our own. Look, I saw where we put more energy in getting illegal aliens driver's license than they did in putting energy into our development of our children. Man, I done seen that firsthand. Look, I spent 24 years in the legislature and I documented everything. And I can tell you without flinching that our problem is us. Don't you ever forget that. It is us. Because we've had chance. I can give you, like I said, take the lottery, for instance. Take the casino thing, right? And the slots. Under Bobby Ehrlich, we could have cut a deal whereby we possibly could have ended up owning outright a slots facility and owning a piece of other facilities. We also had an opportunity to implement a new MBE program like the one Marion Barry had over there in D.C., which resulted in multi-millionaire Blacks who had companies that employed other Blacks. But what did we do? We chose to kill slots under Bobby Ehrlich so that a Democrat could then come along and get slots passed. Now, that's what happened. Now, what we had on the tape. I got it all documented for you.
So you saying our voting for the Democrats is some mental illness in and of itself?
No, no. I ain't gonna put it on that. Let me give it to you this way. Our inability to focus on what our needs are, okay, and to deal with the world from our perspective, as opposed to dealing with what white folks think. That is on us when we act based on what they think.
All right, let's get this young man a chance.
How the hell did a teen pregnancy become part of the abortion discussion?
I don't know. Let me hear from Andy. Andy, what do you think?
Well, I feel like a lot of the young people
Let me just tell you, Andy, the purpose of this show is we're talking about mental health at the end of the day. And the delegate has pointed out clearly examples of where we are not mentally healthy.
That's correct.
Well,
as a people.
The thing is, though, you got a lot of these kids beyond, like, how do we say this? A lot of the kids, these young cats, especially the ones I speak to, I come across them all the time. They feel like they are the problem. So why even participate in solving? And it probably is a mental health thing, right? It's probably a self-esteem thing. A lot of these kids grow up having very traumatic lifestyles and whatnot. So I can see where they would feel like they were the problem. But that's where it all starts. Like, yeah, they're over here doing a lot of the shooting, all of doing all pretty much majority of the crimes, but I still don't think they're the problem. Like they're influenced, like they're easily influenced young people. Like, so
okay, here's something, delegate. They talk all this money about the 21st century schools, but they not putting the schools in our neighborhoods. They over there. They up there. They say our population is going down. So when you talk about education, what about Sandtown? They closed the schools in Sandtown. They closed in the Rex. Where's the money that should be educating my neighborhood?
Well, let me ask you this. Where's the political leadership of the city? Where is the political leadership of our public schools? Are we going to blame that on white folks? Look,
schools is really good at articulating.
Listen to me now. Once we stop being victims,
Santa Lisa was a carryover of Andres Alonso. That was his mentee, and that's where she came from. And he got rid of 75% of the principals in Baltimore City, including Big Mama, who looked like me and you.
Yeah, but how did he get there?
Martin O'Malley, because we couldn't decide on Carl Stokes or Lawrence Bell.
Look. Once we begin to understand that we can become masters of our own destiny, then we can become winners.
Not voting for Martin O'Malley.
No. See, there you go again, going back to we spent too much time talking about them.
Carl Stokes, we had Lawrence Bell. Should be doing. We couldn't choose. Carl told the lies, said he went to Loyola, and then the other one, Lawrence. That was his fault.
You gonna blame Martin O'Malley? No, that's our fault.
It was Carl's fault. He shouldn't have told that lie. But also Lawrence Bell went up to New York.
It's our fault.
Went up to Philadelphia buying them suits. He knew he wasn't supposed to touch that money.
Look, it was our fault. You understand? Don't blame Martin O'Malley. Martin O'Malley was
Bell's fault.
Egotistical opportunist, man. And he saw his opportunity and he took it.
And they told Anthony Brown to kick rocks.
Wasn't he and Lawrence Bell supposed to have been buddies? And then he was an egotistical opportunist who took his shot. And what I keep saying to you, and I know it's hard, my young brother, to see things through my eyes, and I understand that, okay? I understand that because you remember, my generation is the last generation that had direct contact with slaves, okay, who reared us and nourished us. I don't expect the younger people to understand things in the same way that I understand. Because when I sat there at my great-grandmother's knee, because, look, she was too old to go out into the cotton fields. So what she did, she sat there with a switch and a rocking chair under a shady tree. And she didn't have to move because when she hollered, the young children jumped. And then when she tell you, come here, boy, and you had to go there and stand and turn around and take your licks with that switch. I mean, that's the way society was at that time. But what they did,
you have to pick out the switch yourself.
But now listen, yes, sir. But now what they taught us,
I'm not picking out no switch. You're not going to torture me like that.
What they taught us was this, boy. Don't you ever let them outdo you in anything. Boy, you got to be twice as good. You know, I mean, they gave us a mental attitude that enabled us to withstand the racism that we had to face down the line because they built up strong minds here. And so we were prepared to deal with that. Okay.
What if I steal her switch and hide her switch? Then she won't be able to hit me with that switch.
No, but that was about discipline. And she didn't have to hit you but one time because once she hit you, the rest of the way, hey, your ass was in gear.
I think there's something not being said here is that there was a higher level of interaction between young person and adult back in your times than there is now, right? Mm-hmm. Like even down back in my era is the latchkey
kid 911 on your
TV
ass
era. Yeah.
Look, that's right. But so, remember this:
you gotta think about it, right?
We did not have a nursing home to put old people in. We would say things like, "Yeah, Grandma ain't making much sense," but Grandma was still there in the house with us. We learned to love her, and she still understood her role. And as long as Grandma had a purpose in life, which was the children, Grandma and great grandma, their mental thing stayed intact. Today, old people ain't got nothing to do. They shuffle to the side, and so they drift off into dementia. But as long as they have something to do,
I got a question.
Raise children or whatever, their mental faculties remain active. Now, I'm telling you, we have become too much like white folks.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Because I hear two opposing frames of time between Mr. Pierre and Delegate Davis. What happened from the era that you're talking about, Pierre, and the era that you're talking about? What happened? What's caused this separation, and what caused how it used to be to how it is today?
We became educated.
Nah, man, it's the GDP. People have to spend more time out of the household. Like you think about it, you need 3 incomes, 4 incomes to manage a regular single family household now. Like people, like no longer can you prioritize 16 hours a day on kids.
That may be true, but now let me give you a little story. When I got here in Baltimore, 1948, I was 6 years old, right? My mother, we lived in a basement where they dumped coal in, right? But we lived in the back part of it, right? And my mother worked clean white folks' floors and all that shit every day. And then she went to nursing school at night. We kids knew that we couldn't be outside messing up, so we had to stay in the house. My dad worked 2 jobs. He was a truck driver. And then when he, on his days off, he went down to the union hall to pick up a little extra work because my mother always wanted a house. She had a goal. She wanted her children to have a decent home. That was her mission in life, right? And so by 1955, November, we moved into the home that we have on Burrell Avenue right now, which is still a pretty good neighborhood in East Baltimore. And each of us then had our own home because my mother had a mission, and her mission was about the children. Now, you look at the young girls today, everybody's mission is about themselves. They don't give a shit about their kids. You know, really they don't. Okay, they can say they do and act like they do, But when I came along, just like I mentioned about Coach Edgar Lee Bell, the focus of my parents' generation, I don't care where they were, it was always about the children and the future. Okay, it was not about now, and all that. It was about the children and the future. And so Mac Lewis opened a gym using his own money, took thugs off the street, turned them into boxers and productive citizens, guys who had come out of jail. I mean, it was always focused on that. Coach Edgar Lee Bell knew we all wanted to be Jackie Robinson, so he had one of the best baseball teams ever in East Baltimore, that kind of thing. And Coach Edgar Lee Bell then started coaching basketball. This is how we had all them national championship teams at Dunbar High School, because that generation, my father's generation, okay, they were completely focused on the children, not themselves. Okay, they wasn't booging and balling and all that. They focused on the children and development of the children. Where is that same focus today? Okay, if somebody got a program for kids, it's because they can find a way to fatten their money and get fatten their pockets by getting some grant money or some city funds to fatten it, but they don't do no service for the kids. And so our children who need us more now. Remember the program we had over at Bernard Harris? You was with us back then, weren't you? Remember we had the program over Bernard Harris Elementary School. Man, them kids, man, I could never believe that our kids would be in that bad a shape. Kids couldn't sit still. Man, I can give you the whole story, litany on how they got to that point, but it would take too long right now. But
let me jump in and try a hand at it. We read in the papers and hear on the air of killing and stealing and crime everywhere. We sigh and we say as we notice the trend. This younger generation, oh, where will it end? Can we be sure that it's their fault alone? Are we less guilty who place in their way so many things that lead them astray? Too much money, too much idle time, too many movies of passion and crime, too many books not fit to be read, too much evil in what they hear said, too many children encouraged to roam, and too many parents who won't stay at home. Kids don't write the movies, they don't write the books, they don't paint gay pictures of gangsters and crooks, they don't make the liquor, they don't make the cars, they don't make the bars, they don't make the laws, they don't make the drugs that muddle the brain. It's all done by older folk, greedy for gain. Delinquent teenagers, oh, how we condemn the sins of the nation. We blame on them. But by the laws of the blameless, the Savior made known, who is there amongst you to cast the first stone? For in so many cases, it's sad, but it's true. The title delinquent fits older folk too. Then McCormick, what do you think of today's show?
Very inspiring, very uplifting. I have a great appreciation for Delegate Davis's history and his experience in the legislature. I appreciate the comments that I read. I read your comments too, Brother Pierre. I appreciate that as well. And I like a healthy discussion. I do. I know when to listen. I know when to talk. That's a skill.
So Delegate, we got this summit. We got this mental health summit that's coming up, and I think you should be down here talking to us about our mental health on June the 6th. I mean, Vin makes the final call, and I want you to see, Vin, tell them what we got going on down here in the 100 block of St. Paul Street.
Down here at 102-110, because we have the whole block, thank you, God, we have a mental health facility. It's a hotel, used to be where Radio 1 was back in the day. We have this 100-room hotel. We're going to get the one next door at 100, as a matter of fact, November 1st. That's 50 additional rooms. But we've got a hotel downtown Baltimore where we deliver mental health services to the homeless population that is in need of and wants, right? It's two different distinctions, of course, who are in need of and wants mental health services in addition to substance abuse. I'll stop saying drugs and alcohol because substances is a very broad term, including pills, marijuana. A lot of folks who partake in marijuana don't think it's a drug. But anyway, So we have that facility. We have counselors on site. We have medical staff on site. And we have a restaurant, also Food for Thought with the number 4, Food for Thought Cafe, that we use to feed the homeless community, as well as the clients that are in the 110 hotel. So we're trying to bring awareness to the hotel and what it's doing, because as both you know, Mr. Davis and Mr. Pierre, the city bought 2 hotels under the Scott administration that they are readying right now to put the homeless population in. And I've been trying to have conversation with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services to let them know. So, hey, if you do that, you got to have a mental health infrastructure in place, and you want to make sure that you have what's necessary for those folks who come into your hotel to have a plan, a strategy, a treatment plan, and by which you can operate on, because you don't want to just house homeless people who were yesterday drinking, drugging, because they're going to just get drink and drug in your new hotel, in the nice new room. So we've been trying to urge them to have a mental health plan in place, the mental health infrastructure. And we like to have them to come down. We believe we have a great model in place, and I invite the both of you to come down and see what we have and see what we're doing down here at 110 St. Paul at your earliest opportunity.
Delegate, did they close down did they close down some facilities, Delegate, like Rosewood and others in your tenure?
Yes, they did. Yeah, it was that whole what they call a reinvestment in the community, or community was supposed to provide services that were never there for folks. But listen, let me say this so that we all understand where we are. Look, I can only view the world through my eyes. Each of us have a different set of eyes. That does not mean it's just like the Fortin son and the Fortin father, right? It does not mean that you're wrong because I'm viewing things a different way. The one thing that we're doing now is we are discussing our viewpoints, which is good. And as we move to have more common experiences, we can then begin to talk about that. But the one thing that I think we all need to agree on is that we've got to stop viewing ourselves as victims. As long as we view ourselves as victims, we will always depend upon master to resolve our particular problems. Okay, we must understand our ability and capabilities of being the master of our own destiny. Now that we can do, because we used to say the first responsibility of a slave is to say no, and once you say no, the master got it's in his ball court then, because you're prepared to die, rather than to be a slave. Okay, so that was our first responsibility. So we had that kind of mentality, but we also knew too that I didn't understand until I was about 33 to 35 years of age that white people were as good as black people or as intelligent as black people. Okay, it took me that long to recognize the humanity in white people, that there were some good white people, because I had been programmed to think that we had to be twice as good. Now, inherent in that is, if you believe that, then that means you're superior to white people. Okay, and all along the way, wherever I encounter whites, we were far superior to them in everything. Even, when they integrated the football, like we was 4 touchdown underdogs to Poly back in 1958. We whipped the shit out of them. And Poly was ranked in the top 10 in the country. I'm sorry about that, my brother McCormick.
Sorry, bro.
Ass, okay? Now, because, the reason we whooped them, we had a quarterback by the name of Reginald Francis Lewis, who believed, the museum billionaire, who believed that if we were prepared, we could do anything, and that we were fundamentally sound, and we could be, as he called them big head white boys. Okay, most of us were interested in the cheering squad and the majorettes up on the hill. Man, look at them big legs on Helena, boy. I mean, that's why we were. Hey, come on, man, let's get back to the football. We went out there and whipped Poly. So when we go through it, and we won all the basketball championships, right? Okay. Now, I go then at 17, I go into the military. This is my first real encounter with white people. So I formed opinions on white people based on what I saw in the military. And them boys coming out of Appalachian, man, they didn't even know how to use toilets and shit, man. There was some filth blowing the nose like this, man, and man, nasty ass people, man. So I formed my opinion on white people based on that. I never once thought about the fact that only the lower socioeconomic order white people went in the military. I just took for granted that this was white people, man. And so when I come home from the service, man, hey, man, my opinion on white people was just that they were an inferior species, man. And I didn't want nothing to do with them. So when Black Power came along, that was part of my whole rationale for being part of the Black Power movement, because white people were dumb and stupid. Now, if you want to say something, when I stood before a white group and I apologized to them because I always thought they were the dumbest goddamn people on the face of the earth, but then that was my prejudice based on what I saw, because I had never had experience with the broader white segment. So the white people that I had experiences with led me to believe that white people were stupid and dumb. Now, you want to see a look on somebody's face, take a look, think about what white folks look like when I told them that shit, and I apologize to them, because all y'all ain't dumb as shit now. I mean, that was
been a beautiful show, and we're going to cut it short. Vin, great job, delegate. Thank you much. I'm going to get some lunch, and we'll be back Friday at 12 noon.
I need your email address, brother. Text me his email address, man.
I'll make sure you get it, delegate. We appreciate you, man.
I'm going to send you something. All right. God bless.
Bless you too.
Good afternoon, world.